your local radio station.
Senedd Talk Radio.
It's Friday, May the 7th. Welcome along to our coverage of the Senedd elections 2021. Joining me in the studio today is Gwenoro Jones, former MP for Carmarthenshire and our political analyst. We'll be bringing you all the results as they come in, along with interviews with the candidates involved in the election process.
Your stories, your platform. This is Senedd Talk Radio.
Welcome along. My name's Alan Evans. This is Senedd Talk Radio. We have the man with the monitor, Dave Herford, here. Dave, you've got some results in for us.
Yeah, there's a couple of results that have come in, Alan. The latest one is the Conservatives have taken the Vale of Clwyd. Welsh Conservatives have taken the Vale of Clwyd. Gareth Davis is the winner there on that one. A little earlier on, we heard that Labour have managed to hold on to Merthyr Tydfil and Rumney. And that was the second result that we've had this afternoon, with Dawn Bowden re-elected there. And obviously they've done pretty well to get back in there. And they had a turnout which was 35%, which was not bad, I suppose, if you consider all that's been happening with the pandemic and people naturally a bit reluctant perhaps to want to go out too much. So you know, that has to be borne in mind. Resounding victory, Labour's vote share increasing by 14.3%. So yeah, that was a good win for them, and I'm sure that they'll be pleased with that one.
And you showed me something earlier on with Plaid Cymru, Leanne Wood and Bethan Syed. What was going on there?
Basically Bethan Syed is not standing again as a member for the Assembly. So that was really the crucial part about that obviously she decided not to stand again. And obviously there was a little bit of sort of I think confusion as to whether or not they were going to manage to hold on to the seat there.
Dave, looking around, you know, at the way people have been going out, it's a sunny day, low turnouts, 30% or thereabouts. Would you have expected more, you know, given...
I would have expected more, but obviously a lot of people were perhaps thinking that they didn't want to go to voting stations. Also, I think people were, I suppose, unsure about which way they wanted to vote. So I mean, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to say, I don't really want to vote for anybody because I don't really understand the process. I don't really feel that there's anybody on the candidates list that meets my specific requirements or what have you. So yeah, there's a lot resting on it. And of course, people judge a party, especially Labour Party, obviously, as to how well they've done, and they've had a very testing time over the last 12 months in managing the pandemic. Not everybody will feel that they've come out of it very well, especially if they've lost their businesses or their homes as a result of some of the decisions that have been made, and you know they're going to feel that they're going to look for somebody to pin the blame on, and unfortunately that may well be the case in that people will have voted or not voted, as the case may be, for Labour.
There we go. Well, we're going to take a little musical break now because we've been on the air for 7 hours and 4 minutes, and the results are really slow coming in, and that's no fault of the people working at the counter or anything like that. It just is the way it is, given the situation with COVID-19 and so on. So stay with us for some music, and we'll be back after a few songs with Dave Herford and Gwenoro Jones in the studio for Senedd Elections 2021.
Your stories, your platform. This is Senedd Talk Radio.
Welcome back. Senedd elections 2021 in the studio. Gwenoro Jones and Dave Herford from Radio BGM. We're looking at just Carmarthen East and Duneva. Obviously, the results aren't in yet. It's going to be quite some time, possibly a couple of hours. We're not quite sure. But looking quickly at the candidates, really, realistically, we have Rob James of Labour, Harvard Hughes of the Welsh Conservatives, and Adam Price of Plaid Cymru. Safe to say, Gwenoro, that Adam Price will probably romp home.
Well, he should, because he had a strong majority, about 8,000 odd, I think, last time. And whilst people are complaining in the other parties that Mark Drakeford has had a lot of exposure in the last year or so, well, so has Adam in many, many ways, as leader of his party. And he has taken a lot of publicity himself as well. Yes, when you're a leader of a party and you expect to do relatively well, even though you might not do as well as you think, and I reckon that's what's going to be the story by the end of tonight for Plaid Cymru. They're going to have one or two disappointments along the road. But he should win. He should win quite comfortably. And he will have a big decision to make, of course. I don't think Labour will get the 31 that they need. If they get anything below 29, they would have to have some arrangement, and that's got to be with Plaid Cymru. Now, there are big decisions then for Plaid Cymru to make in terms of what are the demands they're going to make on Mark Drakeford before they go into a coalition. We can go into all that later on when we know how does it look in terms of a coalition or not. So yes, Adam should romp home, quite honestly.
Dave, Rob James, he's a Lleiad ward in Llanelli. He's a county councillor, Carmarthenshire County Council. He's been very vocal online on social media, and he's taken a lot of criticism as well. I mean, Plaid Cymru really seem to like attacking Rob James for some reason. Certainly over the issue of Ysgol Dewi Sant and the Welsh language and all sorts of things. Rob, really, I guess this is a testing ground. We know that political parties put candidates in tough seats to try and, get them ready for a future in politics. Do you think that's what's happening with Rob?
Yeah, I think so. I think Rob's just been dipping his toe really into the frenzied world of Welsh politics. He's done very well for himself as a councillor with Carmarthenshire County Council, and I think he's actually become quite popular. I think a lot of people know him. He's very very evident around the town. Everybody seems to be able to recognise him and know the name. And he's, like you said, he's been quite involved with the problems with Ysgol Dewi Sant and Llanach Fields and what have you. And, of course, he was very supportive of Lee Waters when the stop notice was issued on that, although that wasn't popular amongst everybody, but nevertheless, it is a decision that was made by Lee, and of course, I think it is established Rob as a strong candidate, and I think he's a good guy. He's extremely easy to get on with, and he does listen to what people have to say about him. So yeah, I think he'll do it. He'll do quite a good job, obviously. Perhaps not quite at the right time yet, up against other candidates, especially somebody like Adam Price. But it's good experience for him, certainly.
And Gwenoro, the same could be said of Harvard Hughes, really. I mean, he was blooded. We know we spoke to him at the general election and where he stood, and he had that kind of a last remark for Jonathan Edwards about the Welsh language. You know his Harvard Hughes, has he got a bright future in politics?
Well, the first time I came across him, I remember, I think Juliana's passed away. I'm almost sure she has. I'm not sure. One of my claim to fame was that I brought Juliana Hughes' mother into politics because she wasn't much in politics back in those days.
Didn't we meet him at the?
Sorry?
Didn't we meet him at the election, the count?
That's right.
Yeah, that was when we met Harvard Hughes, wasn't it? That was
first time I met the guy. Well, he certainly looked determined that night, I can tell you, because he did force a recount, if you remember.
Yeah.
when there wasn't a recount on, to be honest. But he was there counting those ballots, counting the bundles. I had never seen a candidate like it. He really, really was hard at his work and determined. So he's obviously a determined man. He's an able man, I think, quite eloquent, and if he shows that level of commitment, he'll go far. He ran Jonathan Edwards quite close, by the way. And Jonathan was shaken a bit that night. So, yeah. Not that I know him personally. I don't know what his mother would make of him being a Conservative, because before she was a member of the Liberal Democrats, Juliana was a staunch Liberal. But there we go. He'll make his way in politics, I'm sure. Next general election may be in Carmarthen, who knows? And
Dave, you alluded to it just now, driving up through the Gwyndraith Valley. You can't move for signs Adam Price in the gardens, and the same, in the Gwyndraith for Helen Mary Jones. You think that's the kind of signifier that we expect then, that the number of signs in the garden, the number of posters in the windows, does that seal it?
Well, what it does really is it shows people how the popularity stakes are for the various candidates, and Adam Price certainly has a strong following around this area, and I think people seeing his name plastered in people's gardens or what have you will think, well, obviously he's very well liked around the area, and I think that makes a big difference. If you know the candidate and he's a regular voice and a face around the area, and people feel comfortable with him, I think that's a big, big plus. And people will always vote for somebody that they know of or had experience of, met, and I think probably obviously because the fact is that this COVID has rendered the campaigning, the doorstep knocking, almost to annihilation. Then this idea that people may have met them and befriended them before, I think is very important, and I think that's what carries the popularity stakes along.
Let me just come in with a quick little story for you, if I may. The question of posters on the field, in the garden, or in the window of the house, right? Tell you a story. In 1970, when I knew I was going to win 1970 against Gwynfor, I had posters in the houses in Brynamel, Llanderby, Llangadog even, and many other places, whereas Gwynfor had men, most of them, in the fields, on the lampposts. And the Western Mail asked me a question. It looks as if Gwynfor Evans is going to win it, Gwynoro, because his posters are everywhere. I said, well, according to the fields, Gwynfor is winning. According to the houses, I am winning. I am far more impressed by somebody putting a poster in the window. We used to put those posts often without permission in some people's fields and things like that. I think, but then, is it any more a big issue? It doesn't happen much now, does it?
I think it probably does. But on that note, I think given the timing and where we are with the count, it would probably be easier to go around the houses and count the posters in the window and predict the result than wait for the people to finish concluding at
I haven't seen many.
Count.
I'm surprised when Dave says that there have, I don't disbelieve you, mind.
I mean, it was quite obvious when I was driving over here that you come through the valley here and it's very, very densely populated with political placards, and 99% of them are Adam Price on them. So you can more or less sort of say that this area is very much
I'm sure. Adam. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we're going to take a break. We're hoping that we'll get some inclination soon about the results, but we'll come back and we'll discuss the Llanelli candidates after a bit of music from Fergal Sharkey. Welcome back to the studio. Senedd Elections 2021. With me is Dave Herford and Gwynnoro Jones. We're looking at the Llanelli candidates, and pretty much the result there could be a two-horse race, so to speak. Lee Waters, Helen Mary Jones, Plaid Cymru, Stefan Shevsky with the Conservatives. We have Gareth Beer with Reform, Howard Lillyman for UKIP, and Sian Kayak, I believe, of GLAD, amongst others. This is going to be pretty close according to all the polls and the pundits. It's always been a close Senedd seat. Not so in the elections. Actually, Plaid Cymru coming in third behind the Conservatives. So what's going on in Llanelli? Why is this such a flip-flopping seat? Gwynnoro, can you shed any light on that?
Well, it's only recent times, man, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's been the bastion of Welsh Labour for 100 years. And, you know, from the days of Jim Griffiths, 30-odd thousand majorities, even Denzil, 20,000 odd. So it's not been a flip-flop at all. I don't know what's gone wrong with Labour Party incidentally, to be honest, to have declined from those massive majorities to now, you know, winning the last Assembly election by 300 odd. You know, that's odd. And even, if I remember rightly, Nia Griffiths was a bit surprised. Yeah. What happened with her majority?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to look historically, though, Gwynnoro, because obviously Llanelli has always been a Labour stronghold, yes. And it's been the Labour Party has been the party of the working man, and obviously as a lot of the industry, the heavy industry in Llanelli has declined over the years, then of course people's opinions have changed and their political beliefs have altered, and you know there isn't a party really now that necessarily one size fits all, whereas the Labour Party did tend to sort of favour and support people who were working in the steelworks, in collieries, heavy industries like that.
Yes, but to be fair, mind, Plaid Cymru fished that mould as well. The only major difference between Labour and Plaid is the issue of independence and how Wales should be governed. You know, I mean, both are left of centre parties. Yeah. You know, some would argue that maybe the Labour Party are a bit more left than Plaid, but I'm not quite sure about that. If you were to look at the manifestos of the two parties, they're remarkably similar. They talk about the same things, actually. They talk about green issues, they talk about employment, they talk about funding new funds for the Welsh economy. There's actually a blueprint in the Plaid Cymru manifesto of a coalition government. It's there. Tweaking it a bit can be done.
What's interesting is certainly when I was observing the last election and speaking, we interviewed Jeremy Corbyn at the time, the cult of Corbyn that existed, and Nia Griffiths certainly, and some of the other Labour candidates in Wales really didn't declare their allegiance comprehensively to his way of doing things and his politics, which was pretty much speaking out for the working man. He was very much a socialist in every sense of the word. Once Jeremy had gone and Keir Hardie had come in, wow, you know, it was all hands to deck, and this was the new voice of Labour, as you say, probably now more edging towards conservatism, towards the right with Keir Starmer. So where does that leave the working man and woman in Llanelli? You know, looking up to Keir Starmer, a barrister, a QC, somebody who is, you know, not from this side of the tracks, so to speak. Gwynnoro, do you think he's going to resonate with the working man and woman in Llanelli?
Well, you know what I mean, you use the term working man, and here I agree with Dave. You know, the notion of the working man or the working woman is not as strong a one now as it was. But remember, all my life, 20 to 25% of what we term the working person, the working class person, have been voting Tory. You know what I mean? It's a myth that all working class people have been voting Labour. It's not true. How do you think Harold Macmillan, how do you think Maggie Thatcher, how do you think they won certain seats? They won them because, for some reason, which I've never able to understand, and I came across it myself when I was a candidate, a member of Parliament, people in council houses up and down Carmarthenshire would vote Conservative. It's not a given for Labour at all. Plaid Cymru has taken that role and they have become Welsh Labour in name in many, many ways. But to go wider than that, I thought that Labour's problem now is because of the Corbyn experiment. He was never going to be Prime Minister. He was never going to win. Forget he was worked left of centre, very left of centre, whatever you want to do. He didn't have the image of a winner. He didn't have the image of a Prime Minister. And that has landed the Labour Party. They got hammered last time. And it's landed them in an almighty problem of how to recover.
Your local radio station.
We are Senedd Talk Radio.